Okay, instead of going through the complete process of doing the free Zoom recording sign, as that's quite a niche thing, I'm going to go through the same process, but only going to do one little sign for recording. So we're in Fusion 360. I'm going to start off with doing a sketch on our face, plane, and I'm going to do a center rectangle in here, and this is going to be by 40 high by 170 wide. I'm going to extrude this out, and I know I'm going to print this at 0.3 millimeters. I'm going to want this 4 thick, so I'm going to do 0.3 times 4 just to get that thickness in. And then I am going to create a new sketch on here. We're just going to start making the back of this, and I'm going to do this by offsetting this inside, and I'm going to offset that by 0.4, which is the thickness of my nozzle, and I'm going to times it by 4, and then that way I get 4 thicknesses. And if I print at 2 perimeters, that becomes a solid wall. So that gives me my outer perimeter, and I'm just going to extrude this out by a total of, let's do 24, join it together, so I have this surface here. So for part of this, you're going to need the Switchmaster file and the 6-volt battery. Both of these are in the bottom of the Instructables, and we're going to save this first. So I'm just going to quickly save this in here. So you have to save the file first, and then we can place in our buttons and our files. So upload these by making a folder, go upload, drag them in, upload them fully, and then once you've got this and you've saved this, you can right click and go insert into current design. This will then load it in here. This is coming in the wrong orientation, but we're just going to rotate this around 90 degrees so we get to this, and I'll come back for the battery later on. So with this, we're going to select this, and I'm going to move this by pressing M. I'm just going to put this over here for now. We're going to line this up to the center. So hitting S on our keyboard to bring up the shortcut menu, go to align, and we're going to align this outer edge of this component so it grabs the center with the center of this component here. And then with this facing forward, I'm just going to turn this quickly back onto orthographic faces. There we go. Now I'm going to hit move again. I'm going to change this to component, select our switch, and I'm going to drag this over and align this to our side here. And just make sure I've got enough space on the inside so it's looking good. Perfect. Here we're going to start adding in the word recording. So I'm going to create a sketch on the front of our shape. I'm going to capture my position, and then we're going to go S, and we're going to go text, and load up our text tool. I'm going to click in the bottom corner, and up at the top here where we can type in what we want, we're going to put recording, and I'm going to set myself I'm going to set my font to Arial Black, just because it's big bold font. In the main sign we use a font called Stencilla. I will put a link into that in the Instructables, but for just demonstration it doesn't really matter if we lose the little sections of our text. So I'm going to set this up to maybe 18 high. There you go, that sits quite nicely. And I'm going to line that up so we've got a little bit of space down here, and we're going to build a little wall on the inside of our shape in here in a second. So I'm going to hit OK, extrude, select our text and only our text, and cut that back into our shape. There we go, so we've got this. So if we were to print this, we would lose the bit in the R, O, O, R, and D. So that's why we'd use a stencil font if we're going to print this properly. So we're going to rotate that around, start a new sketch on this inside surface. And here we're just going to draw a quick line down here. I'm going to offset that by that same measurement we did earlier of 0.4 times by 4. So I get my 4 perimeters, and I'm going to extrude this back out by 23. So I realised I made a mistake. I didn't extrude that first extrusion deep enough. Should have been 43. So that would be this one here, which makes the entire body. So just double click on that and quickly pop back and edit that. So double click or right click and go edit feature. And because we're working parametrically, we can change that to 43, and that'll just join up again and everything will update around it. Perfect. Wonderful. So this gives us enough space to put our back panel in with our LED strip and put in our battery pack and all of our wiring and our backplate. So from here, we're going to create another sketch on this surface. And we are going to project in some lines. So we're going to hit P on our keyboards. And we are going to project in this line here. And this outer shape here. Okay. Perfect. So I'm going to hit O again to bring it offset. I'm going to undo chain faces. I'm going to offset this line in again by 0.4/4. And then I'm going to hit O again. I'm going to hit this line, and this line. And I'm going to bring that in again by 0.4 times by 4. And then this, hit extrude. And select that shape there. And this one here. And then I'm just going to bring this out by 20. And this is join my corners. So I'm going to hold down Command on Mac, Windows on Shift, and go select those corners quickly. So bring an entire shape. There we go. Perfect. Just quickly save that. Yeah, so we've got this, and this will be where our LED plate we're going to print that we're going to put the LED strips on. So again, we're going to start another sketch inside here and slightly offset some things. So let's create a sketch on this lip we've just made. And as we projected that, that should bring in our geometry straight away, which it has. So we're going to turn back on chain for selected faces. And then this time we're just going to minus this by 0.2, which is a little bit of play, so it's definitely going to slide in place for us. Perfect. So on the big one, I projected in the surface and had a little piece set inside, which in all fairness we can do that as well. So let's just project in this entire section here by hitting P and then selecting that. And then when we go to extrude, we're going to have to do 2 extrusions. So we're going to come in here, select this lip and this face, and we're going to extrude this back by 2mm. Yeah, 2mm look good. And we're going to make sure this does stay joint because we don't want it to join together because it's going to be a separate component. So we hit new body and press OK. And that will turn off our sketch. So we're just going to turn off this entire faceplate quickly. And I'm just going to grab those letters as well and turn those off as well. Perfect. So if we pop back into our sketches, drop this down, turn on our last sketch, be the one we've just made, and I'm going to extrude this out by 0.6, and that's I'm putting it as 0.3. That would be 2 layers, and it is going, once I go back in, I'm just going to hit extrude, so it brings it out, and I'm going to join it together. So when I turn this sketch off, we end up with this little double lip here, which is perfect. So let's turn back on our main body, which is this one here. Perfect, so it's coming along well. So we just need to put in the diffuser, the back panel, the little hole for the LEDs, and plated for the screw threads. So to do that, we are going to turn this off. So we just got this shape here again. And again, we're just going to create another sketch on this surface, and then do our offset and extrude it out. So starting again, we're going to select the surface, create a new sketch, and I'm just going to offset this outer edge inwards by -0.2 again. So same as before, just a little bit of space for it to work. And then we're going to hit extrude. And as we started our sketch there, it's projected on the geometry of our text. So I'm just going to quickly select all those. So in the video, in the instructor was about how to slice with 2 colors for when you go to print. I'm going to print at 0.3 layers, and I'm going to want 4 layers, so 2 solid and 2 of the pattern to make the diffuser color. So I want to extrude this back by 0.3 times by 4, so I get that 4 layers. And I'm going to set this to new body and hit OK. Perfect, so this will then get printed, and then once this is printed, we just quickly hot glue that in place. With our back panel here, for this design, I'm going to suggest we just hot glue that in place as well. It's going to be quick, easy, it's removable if we only use a little bit of glue. In the bigger set that I made, I used screws to hold this in place just because I had more space to work around that. So we will use screws to attach this back panel when we do it in a second. So quickly we're going to go back to our data panel. I'm just going to quickly save our design as well, and we're going to bring in our battery pack so we can just have that in here for reference. So right click, insert into current design. And then I'm going to take this, I'm just going to quickly rotate this round 90 degrees that way, 90 degrees this way. I'm just going to put that over here. There we go. Okay, and same as before, we'll do S align, just so we can line this up correctly. So I'm going to take the center of that. Center of this, it's not really going to make a big thing for what we're going to print because we're not making anything to hold it, but it's just so we've got it there for reference. So when it comes to screw threads, I'm going to suggest we put one in this corner with a little floating bit, so when we print this we'll have a bit of support. And one over here as well, just so we can fully lock it in place. You could do 4, but as it's such a small thing, 2 is fine. So to do this, I know that our screw is 2mm and it was 2.7 thick for the thread, so it's self-cut. Perfect. Okay, so we are going to create an offset plane to work on this. We'll capture our position. We're going to select this outside edge. And as we know, the head of our machine belt that we're going to use is 2mm. We're going to want 2 layers of filament on top of that just to give it something to print. So I'm going to do -2, -0.3, which is a layer, -0.3, which is another layer. Just to give us 2 layers to print and 2mm for the head to be sunk flat into the back so it can be hung on a wall. Perfect, so I'm just going to hit save again. So create a sketch on this plane, and we're going to project in this outside surface and hit OK. So I'm going to do show you the measurement process over here, and then I'm just going to repeat it down here as well. So just off of here, I'm going to make a center circle that's going to be 2.7. So we're using M3 screws, and if we do 2.7, it's just small enough that it'll be a bit tight. So when we screw the thread of the bolt in, it will cut its own thread and self-tap itself. Perfect. So we're going to put that in place. To give that a bit of space to print around, again, we're going to do 0.4/4, 4 perimeters around that, so it's got something to bite into. So I know our head of our bolt is a bit bigger than this section here. So I'm just going to do a center circle at 8mm, just so it's got a little bit of extra space that it can bite into. So with this, we're going to take this from the center, and they should all move together. There we go. I'm just going to drag that over to here, and we're just going to make these circles tangent to these lines. So take our tangent tool, hit our circle, tangent, circle, tangent. Perfect. So we're going to extrude this all the way down to this surface in his side, and on the other side we're not going to go as far, and this will print a bit faster because it won't need to put so much infill and support and things underneath it. So I'm going to hit E for extrude, and I'm going to select this surface, and I'm going to take everything. I'm going to go extend to object and select the back of this object. There we go. And I'm going to go new body for now because I don't want to join anything until I know I'm ready to. Okay, perfect. Okay, so I'm going to quickly run on and repeat that all again. Okay, so I've got that sketch done, and I've got this one already done. I did it on the same sketch as well. So this time, we're just not going to extrude this down as far. So I'm going to come in here and do this as a separate extrusion. So I'm going to do this, 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 and this time I'm going to come back just above this, just so it's got a little bit of space to slide in. So let's do -15.5. So it's just going to sit above. And again, same as before, it's going to be a new body. I have to turn off this sketch. Perfect. Okay, so we're going to start joining things together. And we're going to make this with a bit of a fillet so it looks a bit nicer as well, and it's going to be a bit stronger. So first of all, we need to make a hole for our switch to go into. So if we do S combine, select our main body, select our target body. Our target body is our main body. Select our tool, which is our switch. Change this to cut, and hit OK. And that will automatically cut a hole through for our switch. We're going to just slide straight in. I've got some little pegs off the switch, but there's pictures on that in the Instructables on how to do that. And then from here, we're just going to join our little screw sections together. So we're just going to S combine, and we're going to select this X-rod surface, this hole, change this to join, and put that all together. So from here, we can come in and grab this edge where this circle joins and this circle joins. I'm going to do the same on this side. And we're just going to fill it this so it just blends in a bit better and gets a little bit more strength. I'll get to an angle where I can get it. Perfect, and I'm thinking 2. Perfect, so fill it out by 2 just so that's got a bit more strength. I'm going to turn back on our sketch that we made that had our circle, and I'm going to extrude this center hole down so we've got somewhere for the thread to go. So I'm going to minus that by 8 just so our bolt will completely fit into this. Yep. Perfect. So from here, as we've already got all of this, we can make our back panel as well. So, and for that, all I'm going to do is extrude everything out that we have here. Perfect. And I'm going to extrude that out so it meets up to the surface. So again, like we did earlier, we're going to do extend to object, create it as a new body. Perfect. So we're going to turn off all of our other bodies apart from our back panel we just made because we've got a few little things we need to do to this so it's going to fit and our bolts are going to fit into it. So we need to make the pocket on this side for the bolt head to fit into. So I'm going to rotate around and I'm going to extrude this second circle, which is for our bolt head to fit into. And I'm going to select this circle and I'm going to rotate ourselves around. And this time I'm going to go start from object on this side. I'm going to -2. So this is going to cut itself in, but not all the way, so we've still got those 2 layers, and hit cut. Perfect. So the only other thing we need to do, we just need to make it a tiny little bit smaller so it's actually going to fit. So for that, I'm going to hit Q to bring up press pull, and this is going to allow me to come in and select these edges, and I can select all 4 edges. It is like extrude, but it's a little bit cleverer. And it can understand what you're trying to do a bit more than just pushing and pulling. It will actually keep some of the geometry. So from here, we're just going to do -0.2, and it's just going to get a little bit smaller, so it's going to fit easier. Perfect. So if we turn everything we've got on, we've got one tiny little thing left to do, which is on this body here. So all we need to do on this body is just give it a hole for the LED wire to stick through. So I'm going to come into here, and over here I'm just going to go to create slot. I'm going to do a center point slot. Just inside here, click on smooth up. I'm going to do this by 1.5. I'm going to click, and I'm going to move out by 2.5. Extrude that back through, and then it gives a place for the wiring to go through. Perfect. So if we turn everything we've got on now, you've got a fully working, ready to go recording sign that you can print in multiple sections, glue together following the Instructables.